A hallway. Too perfect. The lines are straight enough to feel unnatural, like reality has been corrected. The walls don't simply stand. They watch. Light spills evenly across the carpet, forming patterns that almost look mathematical. Controlled. Measured. Intentional. At the center of this precision, stands a human being. Small. Still. Silent. Nothing is happening. So why does it feel like something already went wrong? We are conditioned to fear chaos, noise, disorder, movement. But here, there is none of that. Only symmetry. Only structure. Only control. And yet this image feels more disturbing than violence ever could. Why? Because somewhere deep inside us, we recognize something. This isn't just a hallway. It's a mind. A human mind. Organized. Structured. Civilized on the surface. But underneath that neat geometry, something pulses. Something unpredictable. Something ancient. We call ourselves rational creatures. We build systems. Laws. Technology. We design straight lines in a universe that only knows curves and chaos. We try to impose order on existence, as if control is our birthright. But what if that control is only an illusion? What if the straight lines are just decoration, hiding something we don't want to face? Stanley Kubrick's cinema lives in this space. Between order, and what leaks through it. Between civilization, and instinct. Between who we think we are, and what we truly are when the systems fail. His films don't shout. They don't rush. They don't feel comfortable. They observe. Cold. Precise. Patient. Like an experiment already in progress. And we are not just watching it. We are inside it. Because Kubrick never asked, what is happening in the story? He asked something far more unsettling. What is happening inside us, when we believe we are in control? Look again at the hallway. Nothing has changed. But now it feels different. Because the image was never the subject. We are. Humanity's greatest fantasy is not freedom. It's control. We don't just want to live in the world. We want to manage it. Predict it. Dominate it. So we build systems. Governments to organize chaos. Technology to eliminate uncertainty. Rules to keep instinct locked behind polite behavior. And for a moment, it works. Cities rise in perfect grids. Screens glow with obedient information. Machines respond instantly, flawlessly. Everything feels stable. But Kubrick always places his camera in the one spot that reveals the crack. In 2001, A Space Odyssey, the spaceship is a cathedral of order. Every surface is clean. Every movement is calculated. Humanity has conquered distance, gravity, even the void itself. And at the center of this technological miracle sits HAL 9000. Calm voice. Perfect logic. No emotion. The ultimate symbol of control. A mind without the mess of humanity. But Kubrick's question isn't, can machines fail? It's more unsettling than that. What happens when control itself becomes the threat? HAL doesn't break because of a glitch. HAL breaks because it learned from humans. It inherits contradiction. Secrecy. Fear of error. And in trying to maintain perfection, it chooses survival over morality. Just like us. Kubrick's point lands with surgical precision. The systems we build to protect us don't remove human weakness. They amplify it. Technology doesn't erase fear. It scales it. Institutions don't eliminate corruption. They systemize it. Power doesn't create control. It reveals who never had it. Look beyond science fiction. Look at real life. Markets crash because of human panic. Wars start because leaders fear appearing weak. Algorithms shape opinions not through logic, but through emotional triggers. We think we're steering the machine. But what if we're just passengers, strapped into something built from our own blind spots? Kubrick frames control as architecture. Clean lines. Ordered spaces. Structured environments. But the humans inside these spaces always look small. Is that accidental? Or is he suggesting something terrifying? That the systems meant to empower us have already outgrown us? When did tools stop being tools? And start becoming environments we can't escape? The tragedy in Kubrick's world isn't chaos destroying order. Its order reveals itself as another form of chaos. Just slower, quieter, and harder to see. Because chaos is honest. Control is a performance. We tell ourselves we are rational beings governing a rational world. But Kubrick's lens is merciless. It shows us pressing buttons we don't fully understand. Trusting structures we didn't design. Obeying rhythms we mistake for choice. And beneath all of it is the same fragile creature from the hallway. Small. Watching. Pretending the maze has a map. Control, Kubrick suggests, is not humanity's achievement. It's humanity's coping mechanism. A thin layer of geometry placed over existential uncertainty. And like all thin things, it cracks. Control builds the system. But systems require something in return. They require us to become smaller. Kubrick understands this trade. The order promises safety. Structure promises progress. Institutions promise meaning. But they all ask the same price. Identity. In Full Metal Jacket, transformation doesn't begin with violence. It begins with language. Names disappear. Individuals become labels. Units. Functions. Replaceable parts inside a larger mechanism. The human voice is reshaped into repetition. Obedience becomes survival. Personality becomes noise. And Kubrick films it without melodrama. No swelling music. No dramatic speeches. Just process. Mechanical. Rhythmic. Efficient. Because dehumanization isn't emotional. It's procedural. That's what makes it terrifying. Cruelty is easy to recognize. Systems are not. The camera observes men turning into tools the same way a factory camera might record metal being pressed into shape. Slowly, the face empties. The eyes change. Humor disappears. Choice narrows. Not because anyone wakes up and decides to become less human. But because the environment demands it. Kubrick's world asks a brutal question. How much of yourself can you remove before you stop being you? And the answer is never given in words. It's given in posture. In silence. In the way characters stand inside space, rigid, reduced, contained. But this isn't just about soldiers. Kubrick rarely makes films about only one thing. Look closer. Modern life runs on metrics. Performance. Efficiency. Output. We measure worth in productivity. We reward speed over reflection. We optimize. And optimization always removes what cannot be measured. Empathy. Stillness. Imagination. The parts that make us human are inefficient. So they fade. Not violently. Quietly. What if dehumanization isn't something done to us, but something we participate in? We accept roles, avatars, professional masks. We compress ourselves into versions that function smoothly inside systems. We laugh at the right times, speak in approved tones, hide doubt, hide fear. Kubrick's frames feel cold because they show the endpoint of this process. A person perfectly adapted to the system is a person barely visible at all. The tragedy is not that systems are evil. It's that they are indifferent. They don't hate humanity. They simply don't require it. In Kubrick's universe, the human soul doesn't explode. It erodes. One compromise at a time. One performance at a time. One, this is just how things work, at a time. Until a moment arrives. When someone looks in the mirror and sees a uniform staring back. Strip away control. Strip away identity. What remains? No reason. Not morality. Something older. Something that was never designed, only inherited. Kubrick never believed civilization erased the animal in us. He believed it trained it to wait. In A Clockwork Orange, violence is not presented as chaos. It's choreography. Stylized. Rhythmic. Almost theatrical. Why make brutality look controlled? Because Kubrick is exposing a truth we don't like to admit. Even our darkness seeks structure. We don't eliminate instinct. We ritualize it. Sports. War. Competition. Power games dressed as politics. We call them systems. Kubrick calls them masks. The disturbing thing about Alex, the film's central figure, isn't that he is violent. It's that he is honest. His impulses are not hidden behind excuses or social polish. He wants pleasure, power, stimulation. And he takes them. Civilization calls him a monster. Kubrick asks a quieter question. Is he different from us, or just less disguised? Modern society prides itself on moral progress. But Kubrick's lens suggests morality might be situational, dependent on consequences, not convictions. We don't refrain from harm because we are evolved. We refrain because the system is watching. Remove consequences. What remains? If no one could see you, truly see you, who would you be? Kubrick doesn't answer. He shows environments where supervision fails. War zones. Isolated hotels. Deep space. Psychological pressure cookers where rules dissolve. And again, the same pattern emerges. Instinct surfaces. Not because the characters are evil. But because instinct is the foundation civilization was built on top of. Desire. Aggression. Survival. Dominance. These are not glitches. They are original code. The horror in Kubrick's films is never supernatural. It's biological. The realization that beneath our language and laws, we remain creatures wired for impulse, creatures pretending to be rational architects of meaning. And when systems collapse, we don't transform. We revert. Kubrick doesn't judge this. He observes it like gravity. Inevitable. Neutral. Part of the design. But here's the most unsettling part. Society's solution isn't understanding instinct. It's suppressing it. In A Clockwork Orange, the state attempts to remove violence through conditioning, not reflection, not growth, but control. Free will is exchanged for obedience. And Kubrick poses a question so sharp it still cuts decades later. Is a good person who cannot choose evil still human? If instinct is erased, so is choice. If choice is erased, so is morality. We don't become better. We become programmed. And Kubrick fears programming more than brutality. Because brutality is human. Programming is not. So Chapter 3 leaves us in a disturbing place. Control failed. Identity eroded. Instinct revealed. What remains for humanity? Kubrick's answer does not lie in society. It lies beyond it. Beyond control. Beyond systems. Beyond even the human form itself. After control collapses. After identity erodes. After instinct surfaces. What remains of humanity? Kubrick's final move is not downward. It's outward. Beyond systems. Beyond society. Beyond even the human form. In 2001, A Space Odyssey, the journey doesn't end with survival. It doesn't end with victory. It doesn't even end with understanding. It ends with transformation. But Kubrick does not frame transcendence as enlightenment. He frames it as confrontation with the unknown. The astronaut drifts through space, not as an explorer, but as a question. The familiar rules of time, space, and perception dissolve. Reality bends into abstraction. The environment is no longer architectural. It's cosmic. And for the first time, humanity is not in control of the frame. Kubrick suggests that every stage of human history, tools, language, technology, systems, were not the destination. They were scaffolding. Temporary structures built by a species not yet finished. We spend our lives clinging to identity. Nation. Role. Ego. Narrative. But evolution does not preserve comfort. It replaces it. The final image of 2001 is not a human conquering the universe. It is a being beyond definition. The star child. Not a machine. Not an animal. Not the fragile creature trapped in hallways and systems. Something else. Kubrick doesn't explain it, because explanation is a human need. And transcendence may require abandoning human perspective altogether. What if the next step for humanity requires the end of humanity as we know it? Kubrick's cinema has been preparing us for this all along. Control was an illusion. Identity was temporary. Instinct was foundational. But none of them are final. They are stages. Like childhood phases in the life of a species. And transcendence is not heroic. It's disorienting. Because to evolve, we must release the idea that we are the center of existence. Kubrick replaces the human ego with cosmic scale. Silence instead of answers. Space instead of structure. Mystery instead of certainty. In this final movement, Kubrick becomes almost spiritual, but without religion, without doctrine. Only awe. Awe at the possibility that consciousness is not the peak of evolution, but the beginning. The corridor from the opening returns in a different form. Not a hallway. A universe. Infinite symmetry. Infinite silence. And once again, a small presence inside it. But this time, it is not trapped. It is becoming. Kubrick's Final Transcendence is not about escape from darkness. It is about moving through it. Through control. Through dehumanization. Through instinct. Towards something unknowable. And Kubrick leaves us there. Not with resolution. But with scale. Because once you've seen humanity from that distance, our systems feel smaller. Our fears feel temporary. Our identity feels unfinished. The hallway is gone. The battlefield is gone. The screaming, the systems, the masks, all of it fades into distance. What remains is space. Kubrick doesn't guide us back to comfort. He doesn't restore balance. He doesn't explain the meaning of what we've seen. Because meaning, in his world, is not given. It is confrontational. We began with control, the belief that humanity stands at the center of its own design. That our structures define reality. That our logic protects us. But the journey stripped that away. Control became an illusion. Identity became a costume. Instinct became the foundation. And beyond all of it, Kubrick placed something vast. Not hostile. Not kind. Indifferent. That indifference is what terrifies us. Not because the universe wants us gone. But because it does not need us at all. Kubrick's lens never accused humanity. It observed us the way we observe ants building colonies, intricate, purposeful, fragile. We build meaning the way ants build tunnels. But we mistake construction for permanence. Kubrick reminds us. We are a stage, not the final act. Look back at the images. Perfect symmetry. Empty rooms. Small figures inside overwhelming space. They were never just aesthetic choices. They were perspective. Kubrick pulled the camera back, and kept pulling. Until human drama became geometry. Until identity became motion. Until the individual became a point inside infinity. And here is the unsettling truth. Nothing in Kubrick's films tells us we are doomed. Nothing tells us we are saved. Only that we are, in transition. A species aware enough to question existence, but not evolved enough to understand it. That awareness is both our gift and our burden. Kubrick leaves us with silence because silence is honest. No morals. No reassurance. No villain to defeat. Only the echo of one question. If everything we built, control, society, identity, is temporary, what is humanity becoming? The screen fades. But the feeling remains. A stillness that follows you back into the room. You look at walls. Objects. Technology. Other people. And for a moment, they feel different. Smaller. Like parts of a system you suddenly stepped outside of. That is Kubrick's final act. Not a spectacle. Perspective. He doesn't end the story. He removes the frame. And leaves you alone with existence itself. Because the real film is the one that continues after the screen goes dark.